The fallout and the final blow. Evelyn Richardson stormed out of the community center with her face burning red, her heels clicking furiously on the pavement. The crowd's murmurs shifted into hushed whispers, some residents whispering to each, others staring after her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Inside, the room was thick with tension. The once confident veneer of the HOA's queen had cracked, revealing cracks of doubt and fear beneath. I stood silently, watching her retreat, knowing this was only the beginning. Evelyn's threats had been loud, but her actions, her desperation, spoke volumes louder now. I could hear her voice echoing in my mind. This isn't over. And I knew she meant it, but I wasn't worried anymore, not after what I'd uncovered. Not after the evidence I had in my pocket, and the allies who had begun to rally behind me. As she disappeared into her car, I turned to the crowd that was starting to gather around me, some neighbors cautiously approaching, others openly questioning. Sarah Johnson was the first to speak, her voice trembling but determined. Are you really going to keep fighting this, Mason? They've got power. They've got influence. I looked her in the eyes and nodded. They thought they controlled everything. The land, the community, even the truth. But they forgot one thing, property law. And tonight, that law is about to hit back hard. Suddenly my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, seeing the message from Detective Morgan. We've just raided the storage unit. Evidence is mounting. They're panicking. A shiver ran down my spine. I knew this wasn't just a legal battle anymore. It was about exposing corruption, lies, and greed on a scale I'd never imagined. Later that night at my house, the atmosphere was tense. I sat at my dining table, surrounded by the mountain of documents, photos, and recordings I'd collected. The evidence was damning. Proof of HOA officials funneling funds, forging signatures, and planning to push through a project on land they didn't own. My laptop pinged with a new email. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. It was from Evelyn, herself, a chilling message. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. I have friends in high places. You've crossed lines, Mason. You're playing with fire. Be careful. Or next time I won't just destroy your reputation, I'll destroy you. I smirked. Her threats were empty now. She'd underestimated me just like everyone else. But what caught my eye was an attachment, a document titled Final Offer. I opened it. It was from Evelyn's lawyer, a thinly veiled attempt to threaten me into silence. But I saw through it. It was a warning, a last-ditch effort to scare me into backing down. I knew I had the upper hand. Not just legally, but morally. The community was waking up. The truth was spilling out, and Evelyn's world was crumbling. The next morning, I met with Amanda Lewis in her office. Her face was serious, her eyes sharp with focus. Look at this, she said, sliding a stack of papers across the desk. The HOA's financial records show they've been siphoning off funds for years. And the invoices for Green Vision Consulting? Overinflated, with Trevor Adams and Patricia Bennett's names all over them. They've been draining the community's money into their own pockets. Can we prove it? I asked, voice low. She nodded. With this we can. And the DA is already looking into the bank transactions. The evidence is irrefutable. I exhaled slowly, feeling a surge of hope. So, this is it, the moment to strike back. Exactly, Amanda said. We're about to turn their game against them. That evening, as the community gathered again, this time for a town hall, you could feel the shift in the air. The residents, once divided, were now united by the truth. I stood at the front, ready to speak, when Evelyn and her entourage entered, eyes darting around nervously. She tried to regain her composure, but it was obvious she was rattled. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, voice steady. You deserve to know the truth. Evelyn and her team have been lying to us for years. They've misused funds, forged documents, and planned to turn our land into a private park for their own ego. I have proof, documents, recordings, even testimonies from insiders. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Evelyn's face paled. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. You thought you could control everything, I continued. but property law doesn't lie. And tonight, I'm here to tell you that I've bought the land they were illegally planning to develop. It's mine now, all of it. Gasps filled the room as I laid the deed on the table, the signature clear, the ownership legally transferred. Evelyn's eyes widened in disbelief. Her grip on her purse tightened, her jaw clenched. "You've lost," I said softly but firmly, "and the community has won." The crowd erupted in applause, some residents crying, others cheering. Evelyn's entourage tried to protest, but it was too late. The truth had already won. In the days that followed, Evelyn's empire unraveled completely. Her plea deals, her probation, everything was finalized. She and her team left Green Valley quietly, their reputation destroyed, their plans shattered. The HOA was reformed, now working for the community, not against it. The land was turned into a proper legal trail, with signs honoring Frank Williams and reminding everyone of the importance of respect and legality. And I kept my promise. I turned my land into a safe haven, a place where families could hike, kids could explore, and everyone could remember that sometimes fighting for what's right is the only way to truly win. But I knew Evelyn's threat still lingered. She wouldn't forget. She'd be watching, waiting for her next move. And I'd be ready. Because in this game of power, knowledge was the real weapon, and I had plenty of it now. And that, my friends, is just the beginning. Would you like the next chapter? Evelyn Richardson's glare burned into my back as she stormed out of the community center, heels clicking furiously on the pavement. The room's murmur shifted into hushed whispers, residents exchanging uncertain glances, some with suspicion, others with curiosity. Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut. Evelyn's confident mask had cracked, revealing cracks of doubt and fear beneath. I stayed rooted, knowing this was only a prelude. Her threats had been loud, but her desperation betrayed her, and I knew I had already begun to turn the tide. Suddenly, my phone buzzed sharply. I grabbed it, heart pounding. It was Detective Morgan's message. They raided the storage unit. Evidence is mounting. They're panicking. A cold shiver ran down my spine. This wasn't just about a property dispute anymore. It was a full-blown criminal investigation, and I was smack in the middle of it. I slipped into my house, eyes scanning the chaos outside, and sat at my cluttered dining table. The mountain of documents, photos, and recordings I'd collected loomed before me like a fortress. Every piece of evidence was a dagger aimed at Evelyn and her crooked scheme. Proof of HOA officials funneling funds, forging signatures, and planning to push through a project on land they didn't own. The truth was bleeding out, and their false empire was crumbling. My phone lit up again. I hesitated, then opened the message. It was from Evelyn herself, a cold, calculated threat. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning. I have friends in high places. You've crossed lines, Mason. Be careful. Or next time I won't just destroy your reputation. I'll destroy you." Her words chilled me, but I smirked. She'd overplayed her hand. Her threats were hollow now, just noise in the wind, but what caught my eye was an email attachment, a document titled Final Offer. I clicked it open. It was from her lawyer, a thinly veiled warning, a last-ditch effort to cow me into silence. I read, and a sly smile crept across my face. Her bluff was just that, a bluff. She underestimated me, underestimated the truth I carried. I knew I had the upper hand, not just legally, but morally. The community was waking up. The dominoes were falling. The next morning I met with Amanda Lewis, the sharp-eyed attorney who'd been helping me navigate this mess. She laid out the evidence like a well-aimed arrow. "Look at this," she said, sliding a thick stack of papers across the desk. "The HOA's financial records show years of siphoning off funds, diverting money meant for community projects into their own pockets. The invoices from Green Vision Consulting, overinflated, with Trevor Adams and Patricia Bennett's names all over them. They've been draining your community's money for personal gain." "Can we prove it?" I asked, voice tense. Her eyes flashed with confidence. "Yes. and the DA is already reviewing the bank transactions. The evidence is undeniable. A surge of hope washed over me. This was the moment to strike back. That evening, I faced the community at a town hall that felt more like a court. Evelyn and her crew entered, nervous, eyes darting around. Evelyn tried to keep her composure, but it was slipping. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, voice steady, "you deserve to know the truth. Evelyn and her team have lied, cheated, and stolen from all of us. They've misused funds, forged documents, and planned to turn our land into a private park for their own vanity project. And I have proof. Documents, recordings, testimonies." A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. Evelyn's face waned with disbelief. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "I've bought the land they were illegally planning to develop," I continued, sliding the deed onto the table. "It's mine now. All of it. And I've got the evidence to prove it." Gasps erupted. Some residents stared in shock, others in anger. Evelyn's crew looked panicked. Her carefully crafted facade was crashing down. "You see?" I said softly, but firmly. "They thought they could control everything, the land, the community, the truth. But property law doesn't lie. And tonight I'm here to tell you it's over." The room erupted in applause, some residents crying, others cheering. Evelyn's entourage tried to protest, but it was too late. The truth had already won. Intro. The days that followed, everything unraveled. Evelyn's plea deals, her probation, they all came crashing down with a resounding thud. She and her team left Green Valley quietly, their reputation in shambles, their plans destroyed. The HOA was reformed, now working for the community, not against it. The land was turned into a proper legal trail, Frank Williams Memorial Trail, with a plaque telling his story and reminding everyone of the importance of respect and legality. And I kept my promise. I turned my land into a safe haven, a place where families could hike, kids could explore, and everyone could remember that sometimes fighting for what's right is the only way to truly win. But I knew Evelyn's threat still lingered. She'd never forget, and I'd be watching. Because in this game of power, knowledge is the real weapon, and I had plenty of it now. And that, my friends, is just the beginning. Evelyn Richardson's glare burned into my back as she stormed out of the community center, heels pounding the pavement like a warning. The room was silent, everyone's eyes fixed on me, the weight of what had just happened pressing down like a storm about to break. She'd left in fury, but her anger was only the surface. Beneath it, I saw something darker, panic, desperation, and a flicker of something I knew was worse. She was planning her last move. I didn't need to look around to feel the whispers crawling toward me. I already knew. They were afraid of her, of what she could still do. But now I had something she hadn't expected. Proof. The documents. The recordings. The evidence I'd gathered over months of digging into her empire of lies. It was all there, waiting for the final blow. My phone buzzed again. I hesitated, then looked. It was from Morgan. The raid was successful. They're scrambling. Evidence is mounting. I clenched my fists. The pieces were falling into place, and Evelyn was cornered. But I knew her too well. She wouldn't go quietly. Suddenly my doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. I moved swiftly, opening the door to find a man in a hoodie, eyes darting nervously. "Mr. Holloway," he whispered, voice trembling. "They're coming for everything tonight. The storage unit was emptied. They're trying to erase what they can. You need to act fast." Before I could reply, my phone lit up again. It was Morgan. "We're on it. Stay safe." That's when I realized I wasn't just fighting a woman, a crooked HOA, or some land dispute. I was fighting a well-oiled machine, one that was willing to destroy everything to keep its secrets. I looked at the documents still on my table, the deed, the financial records, the invoices, the recordings. I had everything I needed. Evelyn had underestimated me, but I had one last card to play. I grabbed my phone and dialed Amanda Lewis. "We need to go live," I said urgently. Now, before they destroy everything. Within minutes, I was live streaming from my house, exposing everything, the lies, the theft, the conspiracy. I showed the documents, played the recordings, revealed the secret meetings, the forged signatures, the diverted funds. The community watched as the truth poured out, and with every second, Evelyn's empire crumbled further. Meanwhile, the door burst open. Men in masks stormed my house, brawny, armed, desperate. They thought they could intimidate me into silence. But I was ready. I had the evidence, and I had Morgan and the sheriff's office backing me. "Get down," one yelled. I didn't flinch. I pressed stop on the live stream and faced them. "You're too late," I said calmly. "The truth is out. Everything you've built, your lies, your theft, your plans, are finished." They hesitated, confused by my confidence. I knew then they'd underestimated me even more than I'd thought. As the officers arrived, the masked intruders were handcuffed and taken away. The evidence I had shared was too much for them to ignore. Evelyn's house was soon filled with federal agents seizing computers, documents, and bank records. The truth was finally unmasking her entire operation. But her last desperate gambit wasn't just about money or land. It was personal. As I watched her being led away in cuffs, she spat at me, eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You think you've won? Just wait. I'll be back. And next time I'll make sure you regret crossing me." I looked her in the eye, unmoved. "No one controls the law, not you, not anyone, and I've already won." The room was silent as she was taken out, her face a mask of fury and defeat. The community outside, neighbors, friends, even some enemies, began to realize what had been happening all along. The lies, the theft, the conspiracy, they weren't just about land or money, they were about power. And I had just shattered that power. In the days that followed, the truth spread like wildfire. Evelyn's empire was dismantled, her reputation ruined beyond repair. The HOA was reformed, honest, transparent, working for the community. The land I bought was turned into a protected nature reserve, with a plaque honoring Frank Williams and reminding everyone of the importance of respecting property and law. And me? I had finally found peace. Not just because I'd won, but because I'd exposed the darkness hiding behind the masks of authority. I had fought for what was right, and I'd won a victory that would echo through Green Valley for generations. As I stood at the edge of the new trail, the wind whispering through the trees, I knew this wasn't just an ending. It was a new beginning. One where truth, justice, and integrity finally reigned. And Evelyn? Last I heard, she was gone from Green Valley, her name forever tainted, her schemes exposed for all to see. She'd tried to destroy me, but I had become something greater, someone who stood for honesty, for justice, for the truth. And in that moment I realized, sometimes the biggest battles are the ones you never see coming. But if you have the courage to fight and the truth on your side, victory is inevitable. Because in the end, the truth always finds a way to win.